Hello, I'm Greg Sossaman. I'm a certified franchise executive, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Topper's Craft Creamery. So welcome to our informational video on complementary branding and fractional franchising. The whole objective of writing the book was to challenge us to think. It's a puzzle that needs to be solved, and we cracked that code on complementary branding. The book is available on Amazon in paperback or Kindle, and look for the audio version at InsideTheBoxBook.com. As you can see by the quote, I had some help. Ed Renzi, the former CEO of McDonald's, is just a great guy. He was in charge of McDonald's when they added soft serve ice cream into their brand. And after working with Ed, in fact, he joined our advisory board with Topper's Craft Creamery. But the whole objective, again, is the greater good of the franchise segment. The one constant that all brands face is change. If Nike can pivot, pardon the pun, so can you. This information is intended to guide you. What does this look like for me? If Nike can go 180 degrees from a hot vulcanized process to a cold cement process, you guys can make a shorter shift than Nike did. So what is complementary branding? Complementary branding is just putting a smaller brand inside of a larger brand. Starbucks pioneered this in the We Proudly Brew inside of resorts, colleges, universities, military bases, and healthcare. They give you the equipment, they give you the supply chain for everything that you need to operate, they train you how to do it, and then they give you the support. So if you were adding coffee to one of your venues, would you just figure out how to do it yourself, or would you go to the recognized leader in complementary branding? The importance of going with a recognized leader is that co-branding is just putting brands together, like stacking blocks. Complementary branding is like Legos. The whole key is how do you integrate them together. Lane Fisher contributed a piece in the book. I want to define fractional franchise. To qualify, the franchisee must have been in the type of business represented by the proposed fractional franchise license relationship for more than 2 years. That's kind of like if you're in food, you can add food. And the parties must anticipate at the time of the agreement is signed that the relationship will represent no more than 20% of the dollar volume of the franchisee. So if you're doing $1 million, you have to assume that it's going to do less than $200,000 in annual sales. There are multiple brands that have been doing these types of operations for years. I already talked about Starbucks. You look at Cinnabon, Otis Spunkmeyer, Dippin' Dots. Part of the benefit of fractional franchise is you don't need to disclose a franchise disclosure document if you meet the rule. But I would. A fractional franchise should be a strong item 19 for a complementary brand. This is something you want to shout out. A strong item 19 can be a tremendous sales tool as a complementary brand. So while you don't need to do this, I would recommend it. It's about rubbing together nickels. You look at Sarah Blakely's quote. She did $4 million off a $20 item. Here's an example. If you're a QSR doing $1 million in sales in 2,000 square feet, you're doing $500 a foot in revenue. You add a complementary brand that does just, say, 5%, but it's doing it in 4 linear feet of counter space. A typical counter is 30 inches. That's 10 square feet. And if you do 5%, that's $50,000 in additional sales. That's $5,000 per square foot per year. And you really need to find that complementary brand that's going to add about a 50% or greater profit. Rubbing together nickels means rubbing together dollars. Where is your level of desperation? What's your objective in doing this? Do you need to get college funding for one of your kids going to college? Is it the high end you're looking to buy a new Ferrari? Or are you like many people and you're just trying to keep the lights on? Uber was a great quote here, the CEO. Desperation sometimes drives innovation. But I look at Uber, and there are a lot of people that are signing up for Uber Eats. I have to tell you, I'm not a fan of that. You're taking 30% off the top. I think in a lot of cases it's cannibalizing sales. You're losing pickup orders to delivery. You're losing all of the customer data for you to be able to reach out, and you're losing control of the quality chain. But desperation makes people do things they might not normally do. So what's your level? So what's next for me?
I have not yet crossed paths with anyone who didn't think complementary branding wasn't a great idea.
I've met a lot of people that said it didn't work, and they were right. And I think it didn't work because they didn't stick to their core competency. They didn't integrate. You know, average execution is not what builds brands. And in complementary branding, there's no single best answer. There's no unicorn product that fits everywhere. It might be coffee or cookies. It might be smoothies or cinnamon buns, ice cream, or something else. What's next for you? The 3 challenges that everybody faces. How do we do more with our staff and be more efficient? How do we add top-line sales without more people? And how do we minimize risk with a simple and profitable option for our operators? Simplicity is the key element to all of these. Where do we start? What are your core competencies? That's what you need to start with. It's not only what you're great at, but it's also what your customers think you're great at. For our Topper's Craft Creamery brand, our core competency is adding soft serve into a host operator venue at a high profit margin. Another great example that I got from Ed Renzi, the former CEO of McDonald's. They came out with a line of pizza. It tested at the top of the charts in blind taste tests. It beat everybody in every test. But when they identified it as a McDonald's product, it never finished better than halfway up the pack. This is a great example of what your customers think your core competencies are. And I remember a few years ago, Subway added pizza. I tried it. I thought it was pretty good. I wonder if the same thing happened with them. The customer just didn't think that they were any good at pizza. I wonder if for Subway in that instance, or with McDonald's, would the outcome have been different had they complementary branded with Papa John's, Pizza Hut, Domino's, or a known brand with a distinctive product quality? Outsource, outsource, outsource. Do what you do best, outsource the rest. Outsource with those that have strong core competencies with what you need. You know, if I needed to have knee surgery, I'd go to an orthopedic surgeon, not a urologist. They're both doctors. For complementary branding, go to an expert, a brand like a Cinnabon, if you need a cinnamon roll in your operation. When you research with your customers, if you find out you need to add a pretzel, go to one of the leading pretzel brands. Fractional franchise with high-quality complementary brands is an industry shift, and it's here. So what do I look for in a partner brand? There are 3 elements: name recognition, distinctive product quality, and high expertise in operations. Some have all 3. Starbucks, Cinnabon. Some may have 2, but just the name and the quality, where they give you the reputation and they give you the product, maybe like a Haagen-Dazs. And then others are the ones that are the integrators. They have that distinctive quality, and they also have the understanding of how to integrate properly within your operation. Maybe a brand like a Doc Popcorn. So you have to look at the risk versus reward. Talk through the pro forma for sales, operating costs, and your return on investment. After doing the sales projections, cut the sales levels by 30% and see if it still makes sense. You really have to do your homework on this. And then how much to start it up? What's the franchise fee? What's the cost of equipment, the cost of products? Do your homework diligently and then pull the trigger
On something that's low risk, high reward.
Zuckerberg sure would know about risk versus reward. Here are the 7 areas to consider, the nuts and bolts of this whole thing. Brand equality. Do they fit? You can't buy a Coach purse in Walmart. Simplicity. Simplicity in supply chain, one-stop shopping, and then simple operations and simple execution to prep, to cook, and to assemble the product. How about your physical plant? Do you have enough electric? Can you add a 30 amp 208 for an espresso machine or for a Turbo Chef oven? Do you need gas or a hood? And then do you have space in the front of the house and back of the house, both to operate and for storage? Next, how about your culture? Where your people embrace it? If you don't have your staff behind this, it will fail. I recommend that when you start looking for what fits, start with your staff. Ask them. People will be most likely to support that which they create, and they're going to know because they deal with your customers on a day-to-day basis. What's the benefit? What's the value that's added to the customer? What's the value that's added to the staff? Are they going to make more money? Bonuses? Are there going to be some product perks that they're going to be able to enjoy? How about the profits to the operator? If you're the franchisor and maybe you're owned by a private equity firm, what if you add $5,000 per unit per year in fees and supply chain rebates, and you roll this out in 200 units? That's an extra $1 million in EBITDA per year. If you're trading at an 8 multiple, it's a nice build in your value. The legal and financial details. When you do a fractional franchise, how does it fit with the host when you add a complementary brand? There should be a master agreement. You need to square away the legal elements of it and the financial elements. If there are fee splits on the initial franchise fee or on the ongoing royalty fees or marketing fees. And lastly, site matching. Does a complementary brand product fit into that specific location? There is no one size fits all. Dunkin' Donuts Baskin Robbins is a good example. I would add a Baskin Robbins inside a Dunkin' Donuts if I'm in an affluent suburb, but I probably wouldn't do it in an industrial park or a downtown location where the streets are quiet in the evening and on the weekends. Also, are there any lease exclusions against using any products? If pretzel turns out to be the best option for your day part, but you're next door to Annie Ann's, that's probably not going to work. Don't just change for the sake of change, but you need to understand cycles today are shorter. Customer attention span is shorter. Things are so much different than they used to be. Don't be left on the side of the road. The last exercise we're going to do is I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and at the end of that, you're going to have 2 seconds to write down the first thing that comes into your mind that fits in a specific location that you have in mind. 1, 2, 3. Write it down. What's next for me? So if you want to talk about complementary branding and fractional franchising, give me a call. If you want to talk about Topper's Craft Creamery and how it may fit into your operation, I would love to talk to you about that. If you need someone to speak at your event on complementary branding and fractional franchising, whether it's a big event at a conference or whether it's an individual event with an individual brand with a franchise group where you're considering this across the board, give me a call. Reach out. We'll connect. I'll be happy to help in whatever regard that means. Have a blessed day.